In an unprecedented act of leadership and environmental commitment, Ibrahim Traoré, the young revolutionary leader of Burkina Faso, has stunned the world by orchestrating the planting of 5 million trees in just 1 hour. This remarkable event is now being hailed as one of the most ambitious reforestation campaigns ever attempted and successfully executed in such a short time. The campaign was not just symbolic. It was a powerful statement of African resilience and responsibility at a time when climate change is hitting the continent harder than almost anywhere else. With desertification threatening millions of lives in the Sahel region, Traoré made it clear that the fight against environmental degradation could no longer wait, and that Africa would lead the charge rather than wait for outside help. The idea was announced only days earlier during a televised speech, when Traoré called on every citizen to take part in a national green hour. He challenged his people to show the world that Burkina Faso, long plagued by poverty, conflict, and drought, could come together and achieve the impossible. His words inspired not only Burkinabe citizens but also neighboring countries, and volunteers from across the region streamed in to join the effort. At exactly 10 a.m., whistles and drums rang out across the country as millions of people, from soldiers to schoolchildren, farmers to office workers, gathered at designated planting sites. Trucks loaded with seedlings had been distributed across every province, prepared weeks in advance. In an incredible display of organization, each participant was assigned an area and a target number of trees to plant within the hour. Images of Ibrahim Traoré himself kneeling in the dust, his hands dirty as he planted tree after tree alongside ordinary citizens, went viral almost immediately. He smiled as he worked, speaking to children and elderly alike, motivating them to keep going. It was a scene unlike any other, a head of state working shoulder to shoulder with his people in the soil of his nation. By the time the hour was over, teams on the ground began tallying the results. The numbers kept climbing, 2 million, then 3, 4, until the final count surpassed 5 million trees planted in just 60 minutes. Cheers erupted throughout the country. Social media platforms were flooded with photos and videos of families planting trees, their faces beaming with pride. International reaction was swift. Environmental groups hailed it as a historic achievement and a model for grassroots climate action. The United Nations issued a statement calling it a beacon of hope in the global fight against climate change. Many world leaders sent their congratulations, acknowledging both the scale of the feat and the spirit of collective action it embodied. Traoré's bold move also sent a powerful political message. By showing that Africans could take their future into their own hands without relying on foreign aid or intervention, he reinforced his image as a leader of action, a man willing to challenge expectations and redefine what is possible for his nation and his continent. But for Traoré, the event was more than just a headline-grabbing success. In his closing remarks that evening, he reminded the world that this was only the beginning. "We are planting more than trees," he said. "We are planting hope, planting the future, and planting proof that we are capable of changing our destiny with our own hands." As night fell over Burkina Faso, the newly planted trees stood as silent witnesses to a historic day, a testament to what vision, unity, and determination can achieve. And as the world watched in awe, Ibrahim Traoré once again proved himself to be a leader who refuses to accept limits, shocking the world not with war or conflict, but with millions of tiny green shoots breaking through the earth. In another bold and unexpected move, Ibrahim Traoré has once again captured the world's attention, this time by launching an ambitious program to make Burkina Faso the first fully solar-powered nation in Africa within a decade. The announcement came during a surprise visit to a rural village where newly installed solar panels were being switched on for the first time, bringing electricity to hundreds of homes that had never experienced it before. Speaking to a cheering crowd of villagers, Traoré declared, "We have the sun, we have the land, we have the will. Why should our people sit in darkness while others profit from our resources? We will light up Burkina Faso with our own power, clean power, and show the world what is possible." The plan, named Project Salil, calls for an unprecedented rollout of solar farms, rooftop panels, and battery storage facilities across every corner of the country. Already, teams of engineers and volunteers have begun surveying sites for massive solar fields in the arid northern regions, where the sun shines almost year-round. What's remarkable about Project Salil is that it is designed to be entirely homegrown. Traoré has refused offers from several large foreign companies to take over the project, insisting instead on training thousands of Burkinabe technicians and electricians to build and maintain the infrastructure themselves. "We will not trade one kind of dependence for another," he said firmly. On the streets of Ouagadougou, the capital, banners and murals celebrating the initiative have sprung up overnight. Schools and universities have already begun offering new courses in renewable energy, and a growing number of young people are signing up, inspired by the idea of turning the country into a solar powerhouse. International observers have expressed skepticism that such an ambitious timeline can be met, but many admit that if any leader could pull it off, it would be Traoré. His track record of defying expectations and rallying his people behind a common goal has already proven him to be a leader unlike any other on the continent. In his address later that evening, he reminded his nation, "This sun above us is our gift. It asks for nothing, yet it gives us everything. We only need to reach for it." In 10 years, let it be said that no child of Burkina Faso ever again slept in darkness. With his words echoing across the airwaves, and the first glimmering lights powered by the sun now shining in villages that had known only darkness, the people of Burkina Faso dared once more to believe in themselves, in their leader, and in a brighter future that seemed to be rising as surely as the dawn. In yet another historic moment, Ibrahim Traoré has surprised the world by announcing the creation of Africa's largest wildlife sanctuary, a bold step to protect biodiversity and revive endangered species across the Sahel. The sanctuary, named La Réserve de l'Espoir, the Reserve of Hope, will cover over 2 million hectares of land in northern Burkina Faso, stretching into previously abandoned arid regions. Once ravaged by desertification and poaching, the area will now be fenced, restored, and transformed into a thriving ecosystem, home to elephants, lions, antelopes, giraffes, and countless bird species. The idea for the sanctuary, Traoré revealed, came to him after visiting a village where locals told him stories of how herds of elephants and flocks of rare birds used to roam freely decades ago. Moved by their sadness at losing their natural heritage, he vowed to bring back the wildlife that once made the land proud. The project is unique because it's designed to benefit people and nature alike. Communities living around the sanctuary are being employed as rangers, guides, and caretakers, while ecotourism is expected to bring new sources of income. Farmers in neighboring regions are being taught sustainable grazing techniques and tree planting to create buffer zones between farmland and the sanctuary. When Traoré visited the site to inaugurate the project, cameras captured the unforgettable image of him standing in the dry savanna, releasing a pair of young cheetahs back into the wild as hundreds of villagers clapped and sang in celebration. "These lands belong to them too," he said, pointing to the cheetahs. As we fight for our future, let us never forget we share it with all the creatures of this earth. Conservation groups around the world praise the plan as visionary, noting that it is one of the few large-scale wildlife projects in the world initiated entirely by a developing nation without relying on foreign management. Scientists have already begun working on relocating several endangered species into the reserve, and within a few years it is hoped that migratory patterns will return, bringing life back to a part of Africa many had written off as barren. In his closing speech that evening, Traoré said, "We are proving that progress does not mean destroying what we were given. In protecting these animals and this land, we are protecting ourselves. The reserve of hope is a promise to them and to our children." As dusk fell over the savannah and the distant roar of a lion echoed across the plains, people across Burkina Faso and beyond were reminded once more of the kind of leader Traoré had become, a man not just fighting for his people, but for the very soul of his nation. In another stunning display of vision and determination, Ibrahim Traoré has made headlines once again, this time by announcing that Burkina Faso will abolish hunger within 5 years through a revolutionary program of food sovereignty and agricultural reform. The initiative, called Fields of Freedom, aims to transform Burkina Faso from a food-importing, drought-stricken nation into one of Africa's most self-sufficient agricultural economies. Speaking to a massive crowd of farmers in the countryside, Traoré declared, "No Burkinabe child should ever go to bed hungry. No farmer should ever beg for scraps while our land lies dry and empty. This land can feed us all, and it will." The plan involves 3 key pillars. First, the government is building a vast network of irrigation systems fed by reservoirs and underground water, making millions of hectares of dry land arable again. Bulldozers, pumps, and tractors have already been deployed, and fields that were long abandoned are now being readied for planting. Second, Traoré has banned the import of cheap, foreign-grown grain that had been flooding local markets and bankrupting farmers. In its place, he has set up guaranteed fair prices for locally grown produce, ensuring that farmers can make a decent living and invest in better seeds, tools, and methods. Finally, he has launched an ambitious program to distribute drought-resistant seeds, fertilizers, and training in modern farming techniques to hundreds of thousands of rural families. Agricultural schools have been expanded, and tens of thousands of young volunteers, many of them students, have joined the effort to teach farmers and help in the fields. Traoré himself has become a symbol of the campaign, famously appearing on live television plowing a field with a pair of oxen alongside farmers, encouraging everyone to dig deep, sow well, and believe in the harvest. His willingness to get his hands dirty has won him admiration even from his critics, who admit his passion is infectious. The first harvest after the launch of Fields of Freedom already showed remarkable progress. Grain production was up by 40% in some provinces, and markets were filled with locally grown vegetables, fruits, and grains at prices families could afford. International development agencies called the plan one of the most ambitious and practical food security initiatives ever attempted by a developing nation. Neighboring countries have even begun sending delegations to study Burkina Faso's new farming model. In a national address marking the end of the planting season, Traoré reminded his people, "Hunger is not our destiny. We were born on fertile land under a generous sun. When we take care of the earth, it takes care of us. This is our fight, and we will win it, with our hands, with our strength, with our hope." As golden fields of millet and sorghum stretched across the horizon, and farmers celebrated with traditional dances and songs, it became clear that this was not just a campaign to fill stomachs, but a movement to restore dignity, pride, and faith in the power of ordinary people to change their fate. Asterisk in yet another groundbreaking move, Ibrahim Traoré has left the world astonished by unveiling Africa's first free public health care for all program in Burkina Faso, a daring initiative aimed at ensuring that no citizen is ever denied medical care because of poverty. Asterisk the announcement came unexpectedly during a visit to a crowded rural clinic where Traoré saw families lined up outside in the sweltering heat, many unable to afford even the simplest treatment. Visibly moved by what he witnessed, he turned to the cameras and declared, "From today, no mother, no child, no elder in Burkina Faso will ever again have to choose between food and medicine. Health is a right, not a privilege." Asterisk the program, called Healthy Nation, promises completely free access to hospitals, clinics, and pharmacies for every Burkinabe citizen. Medications, surgeries, maternity care, and even emergency evacuations will be covered by the state, a radical departure from the reality most African nations face, where health care is often underfunded, overcrowded, and inaccessible to the poor. Asterisk to fund the program, Traoré's government imposed a special tax on luxury goods and high-earning corporations, channeling the revenue directly into a national health fund. At the same time, he signed agreements with local universities to double the number of doctors, nurses, and midwives graduating over the next 5 years. Thousands of young people have already volunteered to join training programs to staff the newly opened clinics and mobile health units. Asterisk the day the program officially launched, Traoré himself toured a hospital in Ouagadougou, shaking hands with patients and reassuring nervous families. Cameras captured an emotional moment when a mother broke down in tears after doctors told her she could finally afford to get life-saving surgery for her son. Traoré hugged her and said simply, "Your son is our son now." Asterisk across the country, new clinics and mobile medical vans have begun appearing in even the most remote villages, bringing vaccines, checkups, and medicine to communities that had been left behind for decades. Infant mortality rates have already begun to drop, and the program is winning praise from international health organizations as a model of political courage and people-centered leadership. Asterisk, the program has also become a source of national pride. Billboards in every city now display the slogan, "Healthy Nation, Strong Nation," and murals of Traoré with doctors and nurses adorn hospital walls. Asterisk in his first speech after the rollout, Traoré addressed the nation with his usual quiet conviction. What use is a state if it cannot care for its weakest? We cannot claim progress while our children die of preventable disease, while our elders suffer in silence. This is not charity, it is justice. And justice begins with health. Asterisk that night, as hospitals stayed open late to serve waves of new patients, and families finally felt the relief of being cared for without fear of cost, it was clear that once again, Traoré had done more than shock the world. He had reminded it of the power of empathy, and of a leader who truly puts his people first. Asterisk. Ibrahim Traoré has once again stunned the international community, this time by launching an ambitious national literacy and education campaign aimed at eradicating illiteracy in Burkina Faso within 5 years. Asterisk the program, called Light for Every Mind, was unveiled in a dramatic nighttime ceremony at a remote village school, where Traoré stood before hundreds of children holding books and lanterns, symbolizing the light of knowledge dispelling the darkness of ignorance. His voice, firm yet inspiring, echoed across the crowd. A nation that cannot read its own story cannot write its own future. We will not leave a single Burkinabe behind. Asterisk, the campaign was born out of the shocking reality that, despite decades of development aid, Nearly half of Burkina Faso's adult population still could not read or write. Traoré, who has always stressed education as the foundation of independence and dignity, decided that incremental reforms were not enough. The problem needed to be tackled head-on. Asterisk. Light for Every Mind consists of two intertwined missions: universal school enrollment for all children and a mass literacy program for adults. Every village, no matter how remote, is being equipped with a functional school and a small library. In cities, abandoned buildings are being converted into classrooms and adult learning centers. Traoré also recruited an army of volunteer teachers, many of them young university graduates who travel into rural areas to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. To motivate participation, adults who complete literacy classes receive certificates that guarantee them priority access to new jobs in public works and cooperatives. The rollout has been electrifying. Within months of the campaign's launch, enrollment in primary schools rose by over 60%, and more than 1 million adults signed up for night classes. Images of elderly farmers and market women proudly learning to write their own names have gone viral across social media, inspiring similar initiatives in neighboring countries. Traoré himself has become the face of the campaign, regularly visiting classrooms and even teaching lessons himself. In one widely shared clip, he is seen helping an elderly man sound out his first sentence, telling him gently, "Your age does not matter. Every mind deserves light." International education groups have hailed the program as one of the most ambitious and inspiring in Africa's history. UNESCO praised Traoré for his bold vision, noting, "Burkina Faso is proving that literacy is not a luxury, but a right and a key to national development." In a nationally broadcast address marking the first anniversary of the campaign, Traoré reminded his people, "We cannot build bridges, farms, factories, or peace if we do not first build knowledge. A literate nation is a free nation, and our freedom begins with the alphabet." That evening, across Burkina Faso, lights glowed in thousands of classrooms, from the smallest village to the bustling capital, as millions of Burkinabés of all ages bent over their books and notebooks, learning, dreaming, and taking their first steps into a brighter future that, thanks to Traoré's vision, is now within reach. Once again, Ibrahim Traoré has made headlines around the globe, this time by announcing an unprecedented national water revolution, aimed at ending water scarcity and making clean, safe water available to every citizen of Burkina Faso within 3 years. The initiative, named Blue Burkina, was announced at the banks of a nearly dry river in the north of the country, where Traoré stood surrounded by villagers who have long struggled with thirst and drought. Raising a jug of clear water high above his head, he declared, "No child of this land should ever wake to a day without water. Water is life, and life is our right." Burkina Faso has suffered for decades under the harsh effects of desertification and erratic rains, leaving millions dependent on costly or contaminated water sources. Traoré decided to tackle the problem with his trademark audacity by launching one of Africa's largest investments in water infrastructure, drilling, and conservation. The Blue Burkina plan involves a massive expansion of deep borehole wells powered by solar pumps, ensuring clean groundwater can be drawn even in the most remote and arid areas. Teams of engineers and hydrologists have already mapped underground aquifers and identified priority drilling sites across every province. In addition, thousands of rainwater harvesting systems and new reservoirs are being constructed to capture and store seasonal rainfall for year-round use. Urban water pipes are being repaired and extended, while rural villages are receiving simple, durable hand pumps and filtration systems to ensure safe drinking water. One of the most striking parts of the campaign is the national workforce Traoré has mobilized. Volunteers, students, and soldiers alike are working alongside professional crews to dig trenches, lay pipes, and build storage tanks. The campaign slogan, "Water for all by all," has inspired a true sense of ownership among the people. On the first day of the project's launch, cameras captured Traoré himself operating a drill rig as it struck water in a parched village. As clean water gushed into the air, children danced and women wept with joy, splashing it on their faces and filling their pots. International organizations have called the initiative visionary. The World Health Organization praised it as a bold and humane response to the world's most urgent need. Regional leaders have visited the construction sites to learn from Burkina Faso's model of grassroots mobilization combined with high-level planning. Just months into the campaign, thousands of new water points have already been opened, and cholera and waterborne disease rates are beginning to drop. In many communities, women, who once walked hours to fetch water, now spend that time farming, learning, or resting. In his national address after the first phase of the project, Traoré told his people, "The desert will not claim us. We are stronger than thirst, stronger than drought. Every drop we bring back to this land is a drop of dignity, of health, of hope." That night, fountains in Ouagadougou's city squares erupted in symbolic sprays of blue light, while across Burkina Faso, countless households celebrated their first taste of clean, abundant water. Once again, Ibrahim Traoré had not only delivered a promise, he had given his people yet another reason to believe in their power to transform their own destiny. Ibrahim Traoré has yet again astonished the world, this time by launching an ambitious national technology and innovation drive, positioning Burkina Faso as a rising hub for African tech and digital empowerment. The initiative, called Silicon Savannah, was unveiled at the opening of a brand new technology park on the outskirts of Ouagadougou. Standing in front of gleaming glass buildings and rows of young coders tapping away on laptops, Traoré proclaimed, "The future is digital, and our children will not just consume technology, they will create it. From this soil, the innovators of tomorrow will rise." For years, Burkina Faso's economy had been largely agricultural, with little focus on technology and modern industries. Traoré decided it was time to change that narrative by investing heavily in education, infrastructure, and entrepreneurship focused on tech and innovation. Silicon Savannah has three key pillars. First, the creation of high-tech zones in major cities, complete with co-working spaces, incubators, affordable high-speed internet, and access to funding designed to attract startups and inspire young innovators. These zones also house research labs focused on renewable energy, health tech, and agriculture. Second, the integration of coding, robotics, and digital literacy into the national education curriculum starting from primary school. Teachers are being retrained, and thousands of laptops and tablets have been distributed to schools nationwide. Third, a government-backed venture capital fund has been established to support promising young entrepreneurs, providing seed funding, mentorship, and connections to global markets. Traoré has insisted that preference be given to innovations that solve local problems, like drought-resistant farming apps, telemedicine, and affordable solar-powered devices. On the day of the park's inauguration, Traoré visited the startup booths himself, listening to pitches from young inventors. One team showed him a mobile app to connect farmers directly with buyers, cutting out exploitative middlemen. Another demonstrated a solar-powered water purifier that could fit in a backpack. Smiling, he told them, These ideas are worth more than gold. You are proving that our future is already here. Asterisk. The impact of the initiative was almost immediate. Within months, Burkina Faso saw a surge of hackathons, coding boot camps, and small tech businesses. Young people who had once dreamed of leaving. For Europe began to see a future in staying and building at home. Global tech leaders took notice too. Several African and international firms have already opened offices in Ouagadougou's tech zone, partnering with local talent and contributing to what many are calling a digital renaissance in the Sahel. In his televised address that evening, Traoré said, "We were told Africa could not innovate. We were told our place was behind, waiting for hand-me-downs. Today we say no. We lead, we invent, we create. The world will hear from us through our code, through our ideas, through our courage." That night, the new technology park glowed, with LED lights and giant screens displaying the words, "Silicon Savannah, made in Burkina Faso." And across the country, thousands of young people powered up their devices and began to dream bigger than ever, because once again, Ibrahim Traoré had shown them that nothing was beyond their reach. Once more, Ibrahim Traoré has captured the world's attention, this time by launching an extraordinary national cultural renaissance aimed at reviving, preserving, and celebrating Burkina Faso's rich heritage while making it a beacon of African arts and identity. The initiative, called the Spirit of Sankofa, named after the West African concept of returning to one's roots to move forward, was announced during a dazzling open-air festival in Bobo-Dioulasso, the country's cultural capital. Dressed in traditional Masi attire and standing on a stage surrounded by drummers, dancers, poets, and griots, Traoré addressed the massive crowd. A people without memory are a people without future. Our songs, our stories, our colors, our wisdom. These are not relics of the past. They are the seeds of our tomorrow. Today, we reclaim them all. For years, Burkina Faso's cultural institutions had been underfunded and undervalued, with many young people drifting away from traditional art forms in favor of foreign influences. Traoré, a known admirer of Thomas Sankara's cultural policies, decided it was time for a revival. The Spirit of Sankofa encompasses a nationwide effort to invest in arts education, restore historic sites, and bring traditional and modern Burkinabe art to the world stage. Dozens of cultural centers and museums are being built and renovated across the country, offering free classes in dance, music, weaving, sculpture, and storytelling to children and adults alike. National competitions have been organized to promote local talent, from filmmakers and playwrights to fashion designers, blending ancestral patterns with contemporary styles. Traoré also declared that all public schools must include lessons in local languages, folklore, and oral traditions, so children grow up connected to their roots. Ancient manuscripts, musical archives, and craft techniques are being meticulously preserved with help from scholars and elders. In one especially moving moment at the festival, Traoré joined a circle of elderly griots to recite a traditional, epic poem, his deep voice echoing through the night as thousands listened in rapt silence. At the end, he smiled and said, "Our stories are still alive. And so are we." The impact was immediate. Across Burkina Faso, communities began organizing their own mini-festivals, traditional fashion shows, and craft markets. Young artists are now proudly showcasing their heritage on global platforms, and tourism to cultural landmarks has begun to rise. UNESCO praised the campaign as one of the most comprehensive and inspiring cultural revival programs in modern Africa. Neighboring countries have even sent delegations to learn from Burkina Faso's example of linking cultural pride with national development. Asterisk in his national speech days later, Traoré said, "They told us to forget who we were. But a tree without roots cannot stand. We are not just surviving, we are thriving because we remember." And when the world looks at us now, it does not just see Burkina Faso. It sees a people who know themselves, who carry their spirit proudly into the future. Asterisk that night, in cities and villages alike, bonfires lit the skies as drums, flutes, and laughter filled the air. Proof that the heart of Burkina Faso, once silenced by hardship, was now beating louder than ever before. And as always, Traoré's vision had shown his people that their true wealth was already within them, waiting to shine. Asterisk.